Rise, ghouls and gals, and welcome back to the archives. I'm your host, Nick Nightmare, and today we'll be diving back into the realm of Dead by Daylight and into the tragic past of the first ever member of the Yamaoka family we had the pleasure of welcoming to the fog. This is Rin Yamaoka, otherwise known as the Spirit. The Spirit is an extremely hard to pick up killer, but once you are able to master her power, she becomes an unstoppable beast. The Spirit's power Yamaoka haunting puts Rin in a spiritual form, unable to be seen by survivors. While in this form, Rin cannot see survivors, but can still hear them, as well as see scratch marks left behind by survivors and interactions with objects while in this form. She also leaves behind a physical form which keeps the Spirit's terror radius before eventually fading. But, now that we understand how Spirit works, it's time to ask the question, who is Rin Yamaoka? Well, Rin grew up in a humble family living in a traditional home in Kagawa. While in her early educational years, her father forced her to learn the ways of kendo. She dreaded the ends of each day, as she knew her father would undoubtedly be pushing her to the limits in today's kendo lesson. After all, she was a Yamaoka, a proud line of warriors, of samurai. The other kids in her class tease her family's legacy every day. Surely, this girl who could barely wield her bamboo shinai couldn't be a warrior. She was more fit to be holding a broom. Janitor Yamaoka is what they called her. But maybe, just maybe, if she excelled, Rin's father would get better. He had been irritable as of late, talking and arguing to himself. Maybe if Rin could prove she wasn't just a screw-up, maybe then her father would open up to her. A sparring match between her and another boy in her kendo class had been set up for that day. The boy and his friends from the sidelines yell and jeer at her. Janitor Yamaoka, Janitor Yamaoka. The weight of her armor makes her want to collapse. But something one of the boys says awakens something new inside of her. The boy she had been set to spar tells her of some broken glass in the changing room, telling her she should clean it before someone hurts themselves. A new fire burns inside of Rin. She wants to shove the shinai down the boy's throat, see how he laughs with splinters in his throat. She doesn't recognize these feelings. They don't feel like her. And yet, she's able to summon this unbridled anger and take down the boy almost as quickly as the match had started. Surely this had been luck on her side, but she couldn't help but feel that maybe, just maybe, she was a Yamaoka after all. Her and the boy spar again, not once, not twice, but 3 times, Rin taking him down each time. She imagines herself next to the great Renjiro Yamaoka and Kazan, his son. She feels the spirit of the dragon on her side as she spars. Finally, she feels alive. Winning feels great. Being a warrior feels great. Unfortunately, her celebration was short-lived. The boy and his friends corner her on her way out of the dojo. "You just got lucky, Janitor Yamaoka," they would shout and jeer. She wanted to apologize just to get out of this terrible situation, but she couldn't. Her Yamaoka pride wouldn't allow it. She sits there, pleading for them to stop, pleading for mercy, before finding an opening. And without even a moment's hesitation, she takes it, ducking through the boys and taking off towards her home. On the way to her home, she ducks into an alley and hides behind a dumpster, waiting for them to pass. Her blood pumps, the rage still trying to take over. Why hide? She could show them the true might of a Yamaoka. She could show them what it meant to be a warrior. But she stayed hidden. Little did she know she truly would be able to show them the might of the Yamaoka family. The boys found her as she continued home, pelting her with trash and forcing her to the ground. They began to beat her senselessly, yelling insults at her as they kicked her and beat her on the ground. And once again, the dragon, no, the demon within her awoke. Rin stood above the boys, triumphant. The boys lay battered and bloody in the road. Their blood stained Rin's clothes. She proved to them that she was not a force to be messed with. She was a yamaoka. Time passed. Rin's Oni fell back into a deep slumber as she dropped kendo. She began attending Takamatsu in order to obtain a teaching license. This weighed upon the family's already fragile finances. However, when her mother fell ill, it threatened to collapse upon them. Rin began working part-time in order to provide for the family. Her father began taking double shifts in an attempt to tackle the ever-growing debt that taunted him every day. His mental health plummeted as he worked himself to death, threatening to collapse under the stress. He contacted his boss in an attempt to get a raise, paid time off. Hell, he'd taken an advance paycheck at this point. But he got nothing. In fact, the company had sent out a faulty product line that was costing them a fortune. Someone needed to take the fall for this. And wouldn't you know it, Mr. Yamaoka had fallen right into their hands. Rin returned home from a late day of entertaining guests where she worked. As she parked the bike in the shed, she could hear her mother inside, her blood-curdling scream echoing through the night. Rin rushed inside, and the sight before her made her sick. Her mother's chest had been cut open, her ribs cracked in two. Her limbs had been cut from her torso, laying around the room. Without even realizing what was happening, an unknown force caused Rin to raise her arm in self-defense. A katana hit her wrist, getting stuck for a moment, long enough for Rin to recognize her attacker. It was her father. He dislodged the katana from her arm before slicing at it again, cutting clean through her arm. She attempted to defend herself with her other arm, but her father cut through that too in a single slice. As she tried to run, he cut through her abdomen, prompting her to tackle him the best she could in an attempt to defend herself. In response, he punched her fresh abdomen wound before picking his katana back up and cleaving through her thigh. She continued to attempt to escape him, but he grabbed her hair and slammed her into a partition, causing the glass to shatter as she fell through, landing on the glass shards, cutting through her back. She felt the same anger she had felt so long ago. She had been betrayed by her own father. He betrayed her, his wife. She couldn't leave so easily. Whether it be in this life or the next, she would make her father pay. A dark fog surrounded her, but she refused to leave, as she still felt the rage, the need to destroy the man who had betrayed her and her mother. And so, the fog reached out, offered her a deal, a way of revenge, and so she accepted it. She would work for the entity. She would be a warrior within the entity's domain in return for revenge against her father. And that, my friends, is where our story ends. By granting her revenge, the entity now has permanent hold over Rin's life, turning her into the monster seen within the fog. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified when I release future videos. And I hope to see you all in the archives again soon. Goodbye for now.